Okay, today we are going to be painting this mountainscape. You can download this picture, this reference photo, and then I would suggest printing it in color for your reference photo and then in black and white for you to trace. I have already gone ahead and traced this picture right here. And as you can see, when I traced a lot of the detail of the mountain, the places that I want to leave a little bit white, as well as some of the lines that I want to make sure I bring in. I also got relatively detailed as far as this really rocky area down here. So you can see I painted this yesterday in preparation for a mountainscape. But let's go ahead and get started on this very fun project right here. So we are going to get started. We're going to begin with this blue background. So I'm going to mix that blue, and you can see it's a little bit lighter down here. So I want to make it lighter here, maybe even lighter over here, and then bring more color. So I want to create a wash, so to speak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to begin with my pretty big brush right here, and I've already got some blue on my palette from the tutorial I did earlier this week. And I'm going to just add a little bit of water to this blue. Now there's quite a bit of water on my brush, and I'm going to begin bringing in that wash. I'm going to paint over the trees, or the trees over the blue, so I'm not super worried about painting there. In fact, it will help the color look really nice if I just go ahead and paint where the trees are up here. As you can see, this is a place where trees are going to go in. So I'm just starting with the lightest color, right? In watercolor, we work light to dark. And that's what I'm doing. I'm starting with this, the lightest color. So I'm going to make it a little bit lighter down here and over here. Now, I do want to start bringing color in, and I want it to kind of bloom down. My paper is kind of buckling a little bit, and so that might be a little bit tricky, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm painting into my sketchbook. I normally like to paint into arches, but I'm painting into my sketchbook right now. So right here, I've picked up a lot of pigment on my brush, and I'm going to bring that in up here. And I'm just going to let it bloom on down, right? So this is wet on wet. It's already wet from that initial wash that I put in, and I'm just letting it bloom. I don't need it to be super, what's the word? I don't need this to be super consistent looking as far as the color goes. I just want to go ahead and kind of let it do its thing. With the sky, you know, that might look like a little cloud up there. I'm okay with variation happening. So I'm going to rinse off my brush right here. Now, while that dries, I'm not going to be working on anything that could potentially touch that blue and bleed into that blue. I think the next thing that I want to do is I want to begin working on, I think, the stream. That's a light area. So I'm just gonna rinse off this brush. I normally just let them sit in there, but so many of you get a little stressed out when you see my brushes just sitting in the water. So for you, I'm gonna leave them right there. And I'm gonna go ahead and mix this color. So you can see it right here. There's a little bit of a pink in the water. I'm gonna bring that in. I've got a little bit of a pink happening already on my palette. I'm gonna see what I can do to just continue that pink color, bringing it over here. and just letting that be. Now the pink is over here as well, right? So I'm just going to just kind of bring that pink color in right here. And really, I'm just beginning by color mapping. That's what my teacher, Sharon Larson, always calls it, is color mapping. Laying down the color that really is going to just show us where we might need more color happening here. So now the next thing that I think I want to do, I'm very tempted to begin mixing this color right here. It's like a dark brownish bluish color, and I want to mix that in. So I've got this brown over here. I've got some blue. I might bring it in, just bringing in more brown pigment onto my palette. And I know that today we will have a lot of opportunity to chat, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about mindset while we paint today. So I know a lot of you are beginners, and I just want to let you know, bravo for trying today's landscapes. It took me so long to attempt landscapes when I started watercoloring because they are challenging. Landscapes are a challenge, but we just want to break it down. I like to think of it just one step at a time, and there are many, many, many steps in a landscape like this. So bravo to you for trying this landscape as a beginner. These are challenging. You're going to do a great job. And I want you to remember not to compare your work, especially to my work. The only person you should be comparing your work to is your own. And in that comparison, what I want you to think about is, what did it look like yesterday? Have you ever tried a landscape before? You probably haven't. This is probably a pretty new experience for you. And this is a challenging new experience. So we are just building your skills. You know, the more you do of these, the easier they will become. And yours, again, it doesn't actually need to look like the reference photo. It doesn't even need to look like mine. I want you to think about this as just a process. Be process oriented as you paint. You're building a library of pieces that you've painted. I recommend never ever getting rid of, maybe not never ever, but I recommend not, especially in the very beginning. In the first year that you are beginning to learn watercolor, I recommend painting a minimum of once a week to start to build your skills. And then I would, over that first year of building your skills, I would absolutely think about keeping all of your paintings. And I will tell you why in just a moment. So I have this very first shadow down. As you can see with the mountains, it's these dramatic shadows that actually called me to pick this particular picture. I got this picture off of Canva, and the dramatic shadows are what's going to allow us to really create the drama of this picture and make it super interesting. So the next place that I think that I want to go, I really want to go in here, and I want to think about what's the lightest color in here that I can get. It's this like kind of lightish red, almost like a sienna, a burnt sienna. And so I'm going to rinse off my brush, and I want to think about I think this is the closest I can get to a burnt sienna, and that is, it's actually raw umber, I believe. No, it's burnt sienna. This one is burnt sienna. So I'm going to bring in water onto my palette, onto that color. I'm really going to water it down. I want to bring in a super light wash here. I might even get a little of this yellow that's on my palette already. And I've got this really tame color that I'm going to bring in right here on the mountain. I don't see any snow on this side of the mountain, so I'm not going to worry about that. And I don't need to worry about these lines of the tree here. I'm gonna paint over that, so I wanna make sure I can blur over those lines and not worry about it. And as we paint this in, let's go back and talk about why I think you should keep your work for the first year. I think you should always sign it and date it. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna start to see the progress that you make. And if you keep at it, you are definitely going to see progress. And I think that watercolor is so much fun because if you keep at it, if you do a lesson every week, that's 52 pieces of art that you will have to show for yourself after a year. Can you imagine? And of course you're gonna see growth in that time. I'm just gonna paint all of this color, knowing that so this little spot right here, I'm gonna paint all of this, the burnt umber. Yeah, we're gonna bring other layers in here. Now there's this little piece right here, that's gonna be like a blue, a dark blue, and that shadow even comes up here. But for now, I'm gonna leave that where it is. I'm gonna get my brush wet. This color, I like this kind of burnt sienna with a little bit of yellow in there, a lot of water. It's got this very light value. And we talked about this in one of the skill builders that I posted recently when I was teaching on how to get the right amount of water and brush control and pigment on your brush. And in that video, I talked about this as like mist, right? This is just mist. It's really light. You can see through it, and that's what we're putting on. This is perfect for our first layer. And as we bring this in over here, I want you to be really mindful up here of where there's snow. So there's a lot of areas where there's snow, and we want to leave that white. I'm just going to leave that white like the paper. So I'm going to just kind of only do some spots here because I do want it to look like there is snow. And so I'm just being really gingerly about how I'm bringing this, even this first wash on, right? Because I want to allow that snowed look, right? In here, now I'm going to start to just bring in the light color, the light burnt sienna. So as you're painting, and if you keep your paintings as you do them, you are going to definitely start to see the growth in your work. And it's okay, you can share it with other people if you want to, but if you are a budding artist and you know yourself that maybe any little criticism or perceived criticism from somebody else could just kind of throw you off, then it's okay not to share your work. But there will come a time in the beginning, but if you keep at it, there's gonna come a point where you have to share it. For me, it was super fun to share it and to share my watercolor journey on Facebook. I shared it with my friends and family that I was connected to, and they eventually started asking me if I was selling any of my pieces and would consider selling any of my pieces. And that just really inspired me to kind of keep at it and to make sure that I continued to paint because they saw something in me that I didn't yet see. And you know, there were times where I posted stuff that wasn't quote unquote that good, but I really don't think there's any such thing as good or bad in art. It just is. It's our art, it's our creative expression, and everyone is creative. There's no such thing as raw talent. It's just practice and creativity. Okay, so now I have that kind of down there, and I think I'm going to, down here there's some pink in here. Can you see that? So I'm gonna just pick up a little of that pink that's over here on my palette, and I just want to bring that pink right in here. It's just that nice little highlight of pink. There's some yellow spots, and I'm going to drop that in a little bit more yellow, But for now, I'm just gonna keep it pink. I'm gonna let it be super pink right there. I'm gonna make it a little more dramatic. I'm gonna make this a little more dramatic. That's kind of the sunset reflection that we're getting from another vantage point that's reflecting onto these mountains. Now there's a like a navy blue shadow right here, and that's kind of this color. It is navy, which is like a little tiny bit of black, a little tiny blue, and I'm gonna kind of just maybe more blue. I definitely see that blue color in there, and I want to bring that in. It's shadows that make the mountains look so beautiful. And I've talked about this before. I'll say it a million times. I am a life coach. That is my main business. If you are on my email list, if you're on my email newsletter, you know my emails come from yoke and abundance. I'm going to come up here and bring that blue shadow up here as well. And you know what I know as a life coach is that our shadows are what make us beautiful. Our shadows give us depth. Our shadows are places of deep learning that we can access. And it's really beautiful. Shadows are beautiful. They are just opportunities for us to learn and grow. So as you can see, this is starting to take shape over here. Now I'm going to bring in a lot of yellow onto this over here. So I've already got yellow on my palette. I'm going to just bring that in. So are just bringing this yellow in kind of a little bit more randomly. I see a lot of yellow in this. And it's light reflecting. Some of this yellow is actually over here. And I'm gonna bring that in right here, yeah, okay. And I want to let that dry, and down here should be dry. Yeah, for the most part it is. So we're going to work back on this water. I see I missed a little spot of pink that I need to get in here, and that's right in here. I'm going to come over some of that pink with blue, but I want to capture a little of it. So just kind of getting a little of that in at the moment. There's a very, very light blue happening in the stream area right around these rocks right here. And I'm just gonna slowly bring that in down here. Now the rocks will kind of paint over the blue, so it's okay, really and truly, if you get it on where the rocks would be. Now you can see the blue is really kind of darker and purpley. You've got more of a violet blue right here. And so I want to bring in that kind of color. So I've got this blue. I'm going to add a little pink. And let's see what color I can mix to give it. I think we've got it mixed, but let's just take a look here. Let's see, bringing this in. And I'm just taking it back and forth like ripply waves. And I fear that I'm going a little too light, but that's okay. There's some over here. Yeah, so that purple is kind of coming in, and oddly enough, you know, right here it's reflecting the trees, and so we've got some pretty green happening with a little reflection of, you know, I'm not sure if that's the rock or what that is, but there's a little reflection right there. So I want to pick up some green And yeah, there we go. I'm mixing it with the blue. I want to make it green blue and really kind of bringing that in on this side. Just avoiding the places that I know I want to leave light. And I'm just lightly bringing this in here and back and forth. It's still pretty light. I'm gonna have to cover this up with more color, but for the moment, we're doing okay with that. So, et voila. Now, we've got like a black on the left, black, brown, muddy-ish color, and probably could be, it's pretty dark. Yeah. So just bringing that in. And when you paint from a reference photo, as opposed to painting from what you see, nobody sees the reference photo unless you give it to them. I mean, you can choose to do that or not, but really you just want to make this be what you see, the colors that you see. That's what we're going for. Just making it what you see. Even over here is a little darker. I'll come back in with more green in a bit, but for the moment, this is all right. Okay, so that's wonderful. Do you see how in the reflection of these rocks there's some of that pink right here? I'm gonna make that area pink. I'm actually just gonna kind of paint all over here because I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna paint over it when it dries, and you'll just see little pink spots kind of coming through. Let's see. This is still wet, so I can't go over that yet the way I really want to. But I want to come back to the mountains. That's dry for the most part. There's still some, and I want to get that brown sienna color that I'm hoping to get. Really mixing this up. So I'm mixing the burnt sienna with a darker brown, just a rich brown. And that I'm going to, there's some dark spots here and some not as dark spots. But I'm slowly gonna just draw this down and leaving some of those highlights where the yellow is, just drawing this mountain all the way down. Add a little bit more water to this and come over here and begin to just add layers. And it's okay. Again, I'm going over the pink. I'm just gonna leave some spots with a bit of a highlight. And I'm being mindful here to try to keep some white, because those white areas represent the snow, and we need to keep those little caps, snow caps, with just these sides peeking out and bringing it all the way down. This mountain spot range it's got a tree in it, but this is a little, I see darker areas in it. It feels like it's a little bit more forward, but a lot of it's going to be covered up by tree. See some spots over here. I want to just kind of bring in this darker color. So we're just kind of making what we see right here. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more, a darker blue, and I want to stick that in this area right here. It might even need to be a little blacker. I need to add a little black potentially in here to darken this shadow up. And I'm not going to do it yet, but I would need to bring in a little bit of color into this snow to give it a little bit more depth to illustrate that it's in a shadow. Now I'm definitely going to want to bring more dark into this side. So I'm going to mix black and brown. So I'm going to take my black and I'm going to get a really good amount of brown on my brush, really mixing that in. And I want to think about bringing that in. Just gently bringing this color down, darkening this up right here. And I'm going to be careful around the blue. I don't want the blue to bleed into my brown. But I do want this color here. I want to create a dramatic shadow. It might even be darker than this. I may end up bringing one more even in this area. One more layer of dark is what I should have said. They don't tell you how hard it is to talk and paint at the same time. It's interesting. I'm wanting to explain to you what I'm doing and finding the words to explain to you what my brush is doing. It's not as easy as it looks. But like you're learning watercolor, I am learning to be a better teacher with each class and trying to explain to you what I'm doing and how I do it and why, the why behind what I'm working on here. So hopefully it's helpful. Okay, so I just feel like I want more brown. I want it to be richer, darker in here. I like rich color. And, you know, brown it's got a lot of richness to it. These colors are really magnificent. And honestly, what is on the reference photo is very dark. It's like a dark blue brown, and it's got black in it. It's a lot of different colors. So I'm kind of going with an interpretation that I might end up painting over with more blue, but at the moment, this is where the direction it's heading because I just want to darken it up. I want to add a lot of really beautiful color variants in here, and it seems to be doing the trick at the moment. We'll see how it looks as we move on in this composition. but it's starting to come to light here. So we've got the slight pink in here. Now, keeping this dark brown, I'd like to go in with that dark brown into some of the shadowy places in here, but it's too wet. Although maybe right in here I can get it. In this little spot, it's got a little craggly. And right here. And you've got this little ridge that's happening. You've got these little spots that you can add some drama by adding the darker colors in. I'm going into dangerous territory here because I know this isn't exactly dry yet, and so it's gonna bleed a little bit, but I'm kind of taking my chances and just letting that kind of slowly bring out the texture of the mountain. So what you're seeing here. And it's really fun to watch it come to life, I feel like. And let me show you something right here. See this little spot and this little spot? The devil is in the details for sure when it comes to watercolor, and this spot are kind of blue. So I'm going to take this blue and I'm going to add it right here. Oop. It's not, you know what, it's not dry enough for me to do it there, but I can do it right here. That will dry, but that gives a little bit of shadow in that area. Now, this little light blue, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna give that right in here and add some depth. And there's a little bit of that happening right there. And like that. Okay, now let's bring this brown, this lighter brown color that we've got going on. I'm just mixing it around over here. So we need that burnt sienna brown. And gosh, it's got some green down here. This is not dry enough. I need to leave that alone at the time being, if I'm being honest. I was getting kind of excited, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I think what I need to do is I need to start coming down here. This is dry, so we can kind of bring this other blue okay, so I just picked up some of the blue. It is the, probably, I want to say that's the Thalio blue, and it's this right here. Really, it's darker than that in the reference photo. It's got some black in it. It's a Payne's gray. It's a cross between brown and blue and Payne's gray and black. And I'm just really want to kind of bring this in here. Yes, letting that mix in. Oh, that's the rich color I'm looking for. Okay, so it's along here. And I really wish I had a super, super small brush for this, but I have what I have. So I'm going to move to my round 2 and just try to get a finer line in here. Yeah. So just creating that a little bit of movement happening right there. And while I've got this like Thalio blue color, I want to bring it actually over here. This Thalio blue that I added a little bit of black to and a little bit I'm just slowly bringing it in here. There we go. Okay, and that I think I need to bring in over here. I'm gonna pick up a little green. I've got this dark green color right here. And I'm gonna mix it in, yes. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to return over here to this. I just went through a spot that I didn't quite want it. I wanted to leave it more white, but it's okay. We don't need to be perfect about things. I mean, it is what it is. And we're just painting. This is just a piece of paper. We're practicing. You don't really, it doesn't have to be a huge stressor. This is therapy in some ways. It is just such a lovely form of de-stressing and relaxation and really just fun. Hopefully you're having fun. And when it stops getting fun, you got to step back and ask yourself, why are you doing it? Because if it's not fun, really, why are you doing it? And you got to find a way to allow yourself to let go and enjoy the process, because it's really more about process than it is about anything else. Okay, I want to get this strong phthalo blue right here, and I want to get a little black. And there's this right here. It's kind of blue. It's kind of a misty blue right in that area. I'm gonna have a lot of green in there, but I'm just gonna let that be right in there. I'm gonna bring it in here, over here a little more too. So this is beginning to really come to life, and I'm gonna rinse off my brush, and I wanna think about what I have going. I'm gonna take this phthalo blue up here. I'm gonna bring this color in up here. It's a really strong shadow. There we go. Okay, now going to take my burnt sienna. I want to really mix this burnt sienna brown color. And I keep hesitating here because I'm seeing something. I'm seeing a color. Watercolor is about seeing deeply. And what I see is I see this light green. Do you see that? It's moss, I believe, moss covered. On that side, there's a little bit of it right here, and it's kind of cool. So let's see if we can mix something that looks kind of mossy. Oh, I've got a green. I don't know what color it is. That's way too bright. It's a more muted green, probably like a jade-ish green. Yeah, and it's got a brown in it, so I'm bringing that brown in. Muddying it up, dirtying it up. Yeah, there we go. See how I'm making that? It's green, but it's like a dirty green. Yeah, just kind of making it a little muddy looking. Okay, now I want to start with the burnt sienna. And I see it down here. And I see it here. Again, this is beginner, so I don't want you to stress too much. You're already trying a very challenging picture. You're doing great. I want you to think about letting that be what it is. Let that dry. I want to bring some of this red in here. Oh, my gray is still wet, so Gotta kind of be a little careful. Now I'm gonna rinse off my brush, picking up more of this burnt sienna color, and I want to bring it in here to certain places. Just kind of letting it roll around. You can see what I'm doing with my brush here. Just take a look at these brush strokes as I just kind of leave certain places. I'm letting that mountain pretty stay where it is, bringing in just a little bit of the burnt sienna color. Okay, again, this is really taking shape. I'm loving how this is coming about. And I think that, you know, we're really going to keep this kind of like a beginner landscape here. And in order for me to do that with us properly, now we're going to start filling in the trees on this side. We're going to come do the rocks in a little bit. Actually, let's take some of we're going to get a little bit more of that bright green back in here. And I'm going to bring that into my rocks. Don't worry. I'm going to add details that will make that a little bit, we're just color mapping that. Now, I'm going to do kind of the same thing over here. I'm going to grab green. That's too blue in my opinion. Let's see if I can darken that green up a bit. I'm liking that color. Still kind of blue. It's almost too fresh, but we're gonna kind of go with it for now. I'm definitely gonna have to darken this up, but I want there to be some highlights in my green. So in order to do that, I've got to mix this color and we've got to put it down. This is almost black back here, so I'm going to be painting over that, but I'm just mapping that in at the moment. Okay, so here, just bringing this green in, and really I'm just mapping this color. This green comes up here. And this is going to need to dry. So that's going to need to dry over there. I want to mix a darker green. So I'm going to take the darkest, I think it's a forest green that I have. I think it's called, actually it's called blackish green. It's very appropriate. And I'm going to start bringing that up here. I do really like the blackish green color. It's so rich. I'm having a lot of fun working in a sketchbook and kind of building myself little pictures that there's no pressure to sell them or turn them into any type of product. It's just something purely for my sketchbook, and that is just fun. It's fun, it's lovely. Okay, now I want to get brown, a deep, dark brown. Lots and lots of brown with some black. And this is dry in here. I want to start building out my rocks. Actually, before I do that, I want to bring more blue in. There's a reflection of blue on some of these rocks, and I'm going to put that in down here. And there's almost a violet color as well. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's on the top of some of these rocks. And I'm gonna wanna bring that in. So that just bringing the color in, and we're really getting there. We're really, really getting there with this. I'm loving the way it's turning out. Okay. So I'm rinsing off my brush a bit here, and I want this to dry so that I can come in and do some more over here. But in the meantime, I'm gonna take this phthalo blue into my brown. You probably see where this is going. I want this, I think, to be a little darker. And muddying it up with brown. Yeah. And just kind of bringing that in here. Yeah, it's more of a Payne's gray now that I have it this dark, dark color. This is the third, fourth time I've gone over this. We don't want to be afraid to go too dark. You know, again, if you've gone light and you've started and you're thinking, yeah, that really needs to be darker, it probably does. So just follow that instinct that, yep, needs to be darker. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to go there. And play with the color. Yeah, as you can see, this is really making a difference here. And I can even now kind of leave a little spot where it feels like this is a little lighter. This is darker. So I can like leave that. And I'm able to give that more depth and definition since I layered this color on the way I did. Which is fantastic. That was what I was hoping for. And this is just really coming into, it's really getting dramatic in a beautiful way. Now, over here, it is still wet as well. So, you know, that's okay. The green, we can probably start coming in here with my dark green, rinsing off my brush. And I'm going to bring my green, dark, dark green in here. Yeah. And I see it's really dark right here. It's probably, again, I'm probably not going dark enough, but I'm just bringing this dark in. And just want to see where it goes. I'm gonna have to leave some shadows, you know. And I think I'm just not gonna try to get it too precise. I often, you know, try to make it so detailed, like what I see. And, you know, it doesn't always really need to be like that. I could just really make this all dark in here. This gets super dark right here. So I'm just going to allow there to be some highlights to create some depth. But now I'm going to go dark. I'm almost just doing pigment here. It's very little water, mostly pigment, allowing it to be super, super dark. And I'm taking, I know that these are kind of bushy, they're not fully filled in right here, and I'm just gonna let that be kind of in that way. Just took my brush back and forth. And then I'm going to darken it up. adding a lot more pigment here. And do you see how I'm moving my brush back and forth? I should name this, shouldn't I? What should we call it? How I'm just kind of dropping it in and back and forth. And it's creating some spots that are darker than others. There's another like tree here. Just giving that, as you can see, we just built 2 trees in that spot. Getting just a touch more water, bringing that into the blackish green right here. And this tree, it's got this nice trunk that I'm gonna bring down. Add more black to that, or blackish green. And so there we've got the trees going in over there, and I just am really enjoying the way that is coming out. So remember, we've got this moss over here. I think it's dry enough that I can bring some moss in. So I'm gonna bring it around right here and let it come down the mountain. See it over here as well. I don't know if that's moss or trees or what. Looks mossy. And I want to give a little bit more texture over here. This is just, I don't want to touch the green because that's wet. It's going to bleed right in. Probably should have waited. I can come back and kind of touch up that detail. Now, I do want more of this burnt sienna. Yeah. And in some places, kind of just bring it in. Right here. You know, it might not look exactly like what we see on the reference photo, but people understand that this is a mountainside, and they see the depth and they see different colors and they see a lot going on. And it's lovely. So you have so much happening. I'm gonna bring some of that burnt sienna in here. Okay, all in. Now I want to bring that in over here. I think we're dry enough, and I'm kind of bringing it into this. I had some other mustard color in there. Maybe I'll see if I can get a little of that in. It's like a mustardy yellow. It's got a lot of red in it, and I'm gonna bring that. It's in here. It's in here around the shadows, and here. And I'm just bringing that down here. I've got so much more detail that has to happen in this area, and it needs to dry. I'm gonna let that be for the moment. I'm gonna pick up some of this blackish green. I know that I can kind of bring this, I'm just gonna bring it in right here. I know that I can bring this in right now. In fact, I can make that a lot darker than it is, but for right now, it's gonna stay like this. And again, you know, you're still at this, you're still working at this, you are doing a great job. This is not an easy painting. It is, I would say, a beginner landscape, slightly beginner landscape. You're doing it, right? You are here, you are doing it, you are on board, you are making it happen. Just keep at it, keep at it. There's so much color in here. I'm just gonna let it be a dark green, okay? Don't even worry about it. Just bring this in all dark green, this blackish green. We're gonna color map it into that color. And I'm gonna kind of stop right here. I want to be able to do some stuff. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Bringing this in. It's wonderful seeing how this is turning out. I'm making this all, you know what, I'm gonna bring it down over here as well. Because you know what? No one else sees the reference photo. And it just will make this composition a little simpler. That's great. Yep, just like that. I do want to make this darker over here. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. At the moment, we're just going to, I'm going to add a little bit more green, dark green here. And just let that be now. I'm going to bring the blue, come back to this blue over here. And I see just a little, oh, you know, this is still wet, so I can't quite do too much in there at the moment. But I think I can do a little bit more right here. Some lines. A lot of that is wet, so we're just gonna let that be. And we're gonna start back in here. Now I wanna get a little bit more blue. I want that phthalo blue, little tiny bit of water. And let's make this bluer in here. Just, you can see that happening. Now, if I get a little bit more violet, I can get just some lines in here. Lovely. You can see it looks really nice here. Gonna get a little bit more of that phthalo blue in. All in here, yeah. Lovely. So it just looks like that beautiful stream that it is. Now, I want yellow in this spot right here. Drop that in. Like the sun is kind of coming off of it. And we're gonna make a little spot. Yeah, this is, again, still too wet. I don't wanna wreck it. This is where my impatience starts to get me in trouble. So it's time for me to work on rocks is what I want to tell you that I should be doing. So I'm going to take that phthalo blue and the black and take a lot of black. We're going to create a nice Payne's gray. Yep. And I'm going to really begin with these rocks. So they're kind of shadowed on the side. Right, so just kind of gonna get a little rocky in here. Just giving it a little depth. We're gonna do that on this side as well. And I wanna make this, I wonder what making the dark a little purpley. Oh, look at that little violet that I just got going on here. Let's bring that in here. So this rock on the sides, the shadows. That's really creates a nice effect. And got a little rocky beach, little rocky stream in between the mountains. How lovely. So you're just leaving some places with highlights. So it looks like stones. Do you see that? While keeping the highlights of the sunset. I think the sun is probably setting. Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of let that dry. I'm gonna come in with a little bit of a darker wash in there in a little bit. Once that dries, I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I wanna check in over here. I think I can add a little bit of this green, this mossy green in on this side. Yeah, here we go, look at that. We're just gonna making this side slightly greenish. In some places, it's a little green right here, and definitely green right here. And we'll give it that right there. Okay, so as I've added that in over there, I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm going to go back to this violet color. And okay, let's just, I want to get water off my brush to see if I can pick up this violet color a little bit more. And I'm going to bring it in right here. And we're just going to make it a little shadowy in here. Okay. That is really turning out well. So now I want to get a little bit more dark on my brush, and I'm going to bring that here. This is black. And really just kind of bringing that in down here. And it's pretty dark over here. I'm gonna just go ahead and bring it in over here. Now I'm rinsing off my brush. I'm picking up pretty dark thalio, and I'm just gonna bring some points in here. This blue on the rocks. Just adding color here. Shadow. This is actually really dark right here. I'm gonna make this really dark. And mixing the black in. This needs to be super dark. Mixing the black and this over here. Just really not being afraid to darken it up in places. Again, moving, just kind of moving my brush around randomly almost. Not entirely randomly, but leaving some highlights, but also giving it that depth that it needs. Okay, I want to come in with the dark green over here on this left-hand side. I'm gonna go ahead and finish that up, really grabbing the dark green and bringing that in the blackish green. I'm starting with the sides. I want that tree to really cover up some of this stuff. So I'm just allowing it to do what I want it to do. Yeah, there we go. All the way to the side, yeah. Okay, what do you think? Don't you think we need to darken this up in here? So what I'm gonna do, I'm taking my black. It's a lot of black in here, and just and letting it come all over this. It's dark blackish green. It's such a great color. And I love the pigment. This has become such a rich composition. And really that's whoever took this photo that I got from Canva really did a phenomenal job. And what I want to do a little bit in here is just kind of get a little bit of this purple. Yeah, add a little water. And I kind of, yeah, just kind of over it like that. So stones, there's a little blue over here. It's greenish. And we've got this great thing. Now, what I can do is when this, well, no, I'll just go ahead and do it right now. I'm gonna take this right along here, darken it up. Darken this up. You can see the water kind of coming through. It's just dark, and you wanna show that movement in that way. So this is a beginner landscape. This was not easy. You stuck in, you did it. You did a great job. There's certainly some stuff that we can come in here and we could add some darker details if we wanted to. I think maybe the small brush would work great for this, but taking kind of, I think the burnt sienna is really what I want with maybe some lavender and just kind of bringing that color in can really give it a darker look. And I'm just took a burnt sienna with a little bit of lavender, added that in, And I'm allowing the mountain to kind of emerge through these lines and these extra details. Really, it's always in the details, right? And so when I add this, it's just gonna pop that much more. You know, I was really in a good place just a minute ago, but you're gonna see, as you can see, that mountain's really coming forward when you do that. And I really made sure to trace in these darker spots that I knew I wanted to capture when I was finishing up with detail. So that's what you're kind of seeing here. Final details coming in, and it just look at how much that's really popping. Gonna get a little bit more. It's a little subtle over here, but it's here. It's here as well. So that is our landscape. Be sure to sign it, date it, and join me next week or tomorrow for another tutorial. I hope you had so much fun doing this, and I would love to see what you do.